kind of describe. Alright guys, so I want to make a video kind of describing how to find slope in between 2 points. So you're going to see some questions that are basically like, there's a line that goes through these 2 points, and even though you don't have a graph, the question is going to ask you, what's the slope in between those 2 points? Slope, we already know, is rise over run. Sometimes we say change in y over change in x. This is going to be the new formula that we're going to be working with. y2 minus y1, my second y minus my first y, over x2 minus x1, my second x minus my first x. It essentially is the same thing as change in y over change in x, or rise over run. I'm just looking at how much it's going up or down, and then how much it's going left or right to get from one point to the next. So I can give you any 2 points. For instance, I'll go with 2, 5, and 8, 3. Now, if I want to use this formula up here, this is the one I'm going to focus on. I need to label these things as my y2, y1, x2, and x1. So my first point is going to be x1 and y1, and my second point is going to be x2 and y2. So when I go to plug it into this formula, m equals, I'm doing y2 minus y1. On the top of my fraction is going to be 3 minus 5. On the bottom of my fraction, x2 minus x1, it's going to be 8 minus 2. Now, it's just subtraction right now. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. 8 minus 2 is a positive 6. Now, it's not simplified. I can go ahead and simplify that fraction, divide the top and bottom by 2, and I'm going to get a slope of negative 1/3. Essentially, what that means is a rise of negative 1, I would go down 1 unit, and a run of 3, I would go to the right 3 units. I'm going to pause, come up with a couple examples that might give you different results. Okay, so I have my formula up top here again. I have my 2 points, so the question is, if there was a line connecting these 2 points, what would be the slope of that line? So I'm going to do my y2 minus my y1 on top of my fraction. In this case is 5 minus negative 2, y2 minus y1. On the bottom of the fraction is x2 minus x1 is 4 minus 4. So this is my slope formula. I hope you know this minus negative is going to turn into a plus sign, an addition sign. 5 plus 2 gives me 7, and 4 minus 4 gives me 0. So this is what makes this problem a little bit different. I got a slope of 7 over 0, a rise of 7 and a run of 0. So that's telling me to get from this point to this point, I'd have to go up 7 units, but I wouldn't go left or right at all. If you think about what that means, let me put this on a graph for you. 4, negative 2, and 4, 5. So 4, negative 2 is right here, and 4, 5 is right there. What we actually have here is a vertical line. A vertical line, a lot of times we refer to slope as steepness. So if we have a straight up vertical line, my steepness here is what we call undefined. Hopefully you remember back from probably 5th grade when you started dividing by zeros, you're not allowed to divide by a 0. Plug it into any calculator, you're going to get an error message when you try to divide by 0. 0 cannot go into 7. 0 times nothing will give me 7, so this is what we call undefined. The slope is a straight up vertical line. It is steep, and so we call it undefined. I'm going to pause and come up with another example that gives us a weird error. So not an error, a weird result. If this were my question here and I was wondering what the slope between these 2 points was. Again, I'm going to start out doing my y2 minus my y1. So in this case, I'm getting 6 minus 6 on top. On the bottom of my fraction, I'm going to do x2 minus x1. In this case, is going to be 4 minus negative 2. x2 minus x1. 4 minus negative 2. That will turn into a plus sign. And what I actually get here, 6 minus 6 is 0. And 4 plus 2 is 6. So last time I got a 0 in my denominator. This time I got a 0 in my numerator. That means a rise of 0 and a run of 6. To get from this point to this point, I don't have to go up or down. Hey, I don't have to go up or down at all. I just have to run 6 units to the right. So what that looks like on a graph, negative 2, 6, and 4, 6. Negative 2, 6 is right here. 4, 6 would be right here. What I'm looking at this time is a horizontal line. When the numerator has a 0 in it, we have a flat line. Instead of vertical straight up and down, this is horizontal side to side. There is no steepness. And hopefully you remembered your dividing with 0 rules. Anything divided by 0 give us an undefined answer, but 0 divided by anything gives us 0. So essentially what we have here, to sum it up, vertical lines, when you're dividing by 0, is undefined. Horizontal lines, when it's 0 divided by a number, is 0 and you have no slope.